having a VM to do CTFs out of and to hack out of is kind of a must-have as you get into the hobby slash profession. Rebuilding your VM can be a real pain in the butt because you have to figure out what tools do I install, how do I get it up, how do I get all my shortcuts exactly where I want them. I was talking to IPSec about this a few weeks ago, and he was saying, I think I'm going to look into doing it with Ansible. And he put out a video earlier this week. I'll include a little thingy up here to go watch that if you want. And I thought that was pretty cool. It showed how you can download Ansible and how you can use Ansible to configure a VM. But he still built his VM manually by downloading an ISO, going into, I think he uses VMware and creating a VM. I wanted to play with Vagrant. Vagrant's going to allow me with VirtualBox to create VMs and from a config file. And so today we're going to go through the basics of how to find a base image, how to then build that up a little bit to configure it how you want it, and getting the image created to where then I could run Ansible to do the configuration, or I could keep configuring through Vagrant. Hopefully it'll be a fun video and you'll learn something. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so I'm coming to you from my bare metal desktop here. We're not running in a VM today because we're creating VMs. So I've got VirtualBox installed here. You can see that, and I've also already installed Vagrant. They can install on Mac, Windows, Linux. The note of caution is it's worth. I believe you can just do an apt install Vagrant, but it's going to get an older version if you use these commands they give you here to go ahead and get the HashiCorp source into your sources, and then do the install. You'll get the newest version, and that's what you want to be running on. I had some issues getting the older versions working with VirtualBox, so let's use the newest versions. Once I've got this installed, so I'm not going to show you, I've run these commands already. The next thing I want to do is I want to do a Vagrant, installing that will add this Vagrant binary. And I want to go ahead and do an Vagrant autocomplete install. I believe that's how you do it. And you can see here it says it's added, it's installed the autocomplete at my paths. If I do a tail-3 on .bash rc, you can see it has added these lines here, which is specifically, so dot space something is just going to source it. So, the bash rc file is what runs anytime I open up a terminal. So if when I open up a terminal, it's going to source this file right here, which includes the completion.sh. Bash completions are awesome. I will include a link to a blog post I wrote years ago in the notes down here, but they're cool. And what they allow me to do, now I can do Vagrant box, and I can even see, I can do box list, box prune. If I do Vagrant here, I can see all the different subcommands I can run because I get autocomplete. If I start doing destroy, I can tab and get it. So it's a quality of life thing, but it's so much easier to use. Cool. Now I want to build a VM. So the first thing I need to do is figure out what my base image or my base box is going to be. There's this Vagrant Cloud Store, and what this allows me to do, this is where people have uploaded various images. We can see by downloads, this Ubuntu Trusty 64 from 14, a really old version, is one of the most commonly used. But I can search up here for what I want. So I can say, like, I'm going to build an Ubuntu, and I want it to be jammy, which is the newest version. And there's a couple here at the top that seem well downloaded. Obviously, when you're downloading an image out of a store like this, you are putting some trust in whoever made this. So we can, look at these things and say, like, oh, this is looks like it's been around for a long time. It's from Vagrant Box. That's potentially good. Here's one, another one that looks like it's from Ubuntu. That's probably solid as well. So pick reputable looking ones. Your mileage may vary on that. What are these? Well, these are basically just VMs, and they have this HashiCorp has this page that describes how to make a base box. And I'm not really interested in making my own, but it just describes what it is. So you want to have as minimal stuff as possible installed, a package manager, SSH, an SSH user. There's some other requirements down here, like there's a Vagrant user. You want to have a Vagrant user, and they need to be able to SSH. The root password should be Vagrant. It doesn't have to be, but that's the preferred. You need passwordless sudo on the Vagrant user, and that's just, all of this is allowing it so that Vagrant can connect into the OS and actually do stuff once it's created the VM. So we've got this. If we actually click on this, you can see it actually gives us the code for how to design this. So we can just grab this right here. We're going to create what's called a Vagrant file. And it's got to be named exactly this. And we will try pasting just that in. And so basically what we're gonna do here is we're gonna vagrant.configure, and for whatever reason, we're on configuration version 2. I guess hypothetically in the future, if they update to version 3, we would switch to version 3, but you basically always want to do 2 here for now. And then this is, I believe this is actually Ruby. We're going to use the resulting object as a thing called config, and then we can now in this block, it's kind of like a with block in Python, we can use config to do things. And so we're just going to say the box is this thing. If we save this, and now if I open up another window, I can do vagrant up from the same directory, and that's going to find the vagrant file in that directory. It's going to say, oh, it's a box. I don't have this installed, so I'm going to try to install it. It's loading metadata. It's going to Vagrant Cloud. It's actually redirecting to cloudimages.ubuntu.com. That seems pretty trustworthy because ubuntu.com. It's downloading it now. And then let's see. So it's actually downloaded. Yeah, so we're getting it. It's downloaded. Now it's importing that box. And then what it's going to do is it's going to stand up the box. It's going to establish an SSH connection. And then hypothetically, if I defined further stuff down here, it could actually do that stuff. And so here you can see it's waiting for the machine to boot. Let's see. We have added the box down here and we're even running. Should be able to view it. Let's see here. I'll drag it into the right window. Is not super happy with my screen recording software. Is fighting with this a little bit, but let's see. Here we go. So we got a login and it looks like it's done building. It has actually by default mapped /vagrant to this directory that I'm working out of right now. That's actually specific to this image. It's not that's not something it always does. That's something that's configured in this base box. And here we are. We can log in with the username password vagrant, and we're in. We have a thing. Now we're noticing it's blinking. I assume that's coming through on the video too. That the graphics is not quite set up right, making me a little bit crazy. Let's go ahead and shrink this. We can take a look at the config here of what it generated. And so like on the system side, we have one gig of memory, pretty small. We've given it 2 processors. On the display side, we're using VBox VGA. I'm actually going to change that, so I'm going to fix the blinking stuff. Storage-wise, looks like we have a 40 gig hard drive and a 10 meg, so that's like a setup of some kind. So 40 gigs, again, that's pretty small actually. Especially VirtualBox configures its drives so that you can see 40 gig size, actual size 1.45 gigs. So it only takes up space that's actually being used. So I want to set this bigger. So let's go ahead and what we can do, cancel this. We can do vagrant destroy, and that's going to tear down this box and it's going to delete it from my inventory here. You can see it's going to disappear here in just a second. It's gone. And let's do a little bit more configuration. So go up here. Let's see. What can we do? What else can we do in here? The first thing, well, for disk size, that's not something that Vagrant natively supports, but there's a plugin for it. And so I can do Vagrant plugin install, and then the plugin is called Vagrant. I don't know if I get disk size. I think that's right. And so it's installing that. And so then I can go ahead and start working with it well we need to. What we're going to do here is we can do config.disk size. That's how we access this plugin. And we will just say .size equals 200 gigabytes. Obviously, the size you put here is going to depend on your computer, how much space you have. But I've got enough space that I can afford 200 gigabytes. And also, it's not going to actually use that much. So I like to go real big because when you run out of space in your VM, it's a pain. There's another, while we're talking about plugins, there is another plugin called Vagrant VB Guest that I like to install. We can actually see, let's see, I don't know if it showed here or not. Yeah, it said the guest editions on this VM do not match the installed version. In most cases, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. So we're running guest edition 6.0. If you have the guest edition, the VB Guest plugin installed, every time it comes up, it'll check it. And if it finds that it doesn't match, it'll go ahead and install the new ones. The reason I'm not putting it here right now is it takes 3 or 4 minutes to install. And when I put this video, that would be a real pain in the butt. Okay, we've configured the disk size. Let's see what else we can look at. For the rest of the stuff, a lot of it's kind of natively built in. So we'll do config.vm.define. And we can say, we'll call it demo VM. I don't know, for lack of a better word, and we'll say the thing it produces, we'll call it demo. And here we can do things like, we need another config. We can do config.vm.provider. VirtualBox. So we're going to pass in that this provider is called VirtualBox. We'll say we'll get a VB object. And so now we can say vb.name, and we can call this like demo VM, because right now it's calling it, it was like a Vagrant blah 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 blah. That's not what I want my VM to be called. We can do vb.memory. We can say 192, and again, based on how much you have, but that's in megabytes, so give me 8 gigs of memory. You could go for 6, maybe even 4, but I got 64 on my machine, so I'm going to go ahead and give 8 to my VM. CPUs, I'm going to say 6. Again, you can do less, but again, I have them, so I'm going to use them. And we'll say customize. And so what vb.customize does is it runs, there's a thing called VBox manage is a utility here with all sorts of ways to interact with your VirtualBox things. This vb.customize effectively is running VBox manage commands. And so if you see we have VBox manage, and then I don't know if I have autocomplete on this or not, but we'll try it. No, but there is one called modify VM. Here, we'll do it this way. Grep modify. So modify VM here shows you all these different modify VM things. So that's what we're going to be calling. But basically you can call almost anything out of VBox manage. And so then you just kind of pass ID. That's going to say use the current ID that I'm working with. And then, we'll say graphics controller VMS VGA. Change that, and we'll do vb.customize. And the reason I basically offline I noticed this blinking before, and I said, I'm actually you can power down the VM, switch the graphics controller, power it back up, and do that until you see it working. I didn't figure that was good video, but you can just trust me that worked. We'll do another modify VM here. And this time we'll say ID, just to show you another thing we can do. We can do clipboard mode bidirectional, because I like copying in and out of my VM quite a lot. I do often do a lot of research in like a Chrome window on my desktop and then paste into the VM. So I'm bidirectional there. Obviously for write-ups, I need to be able to copy and paste out. And so now we have end here. I think we need one more end to finish up our loop. And I think we're good here. Let's go ahead and build this one. So we ran Vagrant destroy. So now we'll just run Vagrant up again. Again, this now, you can see it's created. And now as it's creating, so it's importing, this time it doesn't have to download it because it's already got the base image. Importing takes a second, but now you can see it renamed itself to demo VM. It's standing itself up and it's running. I was thinking I might have to pause the video, but it looks like this is happening pretty quickly. Let's pull this over. Oops, managed to get it partly on the screen. Okay. And here we go. It looks cleaner. I'm not getting that blinking before. I can look in the settings here, and we can see, here's my 8 gigs of RAM. Here's my 6 CPUs. The display is now what I set it to. The storage is still 40 gigs. I wonder if I messed that up. Oh, I've got 2 dots in here. So that was wrong. We'll fix that in a future version. Glad we noticed that. Let's go up here. I'm sure somebody, if you all are anything like I am when you're watching these videos, you're sitting there screaming at the screen when I make that mistake. I wonder if it gave me an error message in here. Oops, what am I doing here? Let's see. Did I get an error message in here at all? Not really. Huh. Oh well. Okay. So, we fix that. So what do I want to do now? So I got here, I can come back in and I can vagrant and log in. But this is my VM I use for CTFs and like pen testing. So I want a GUI. I don't want to just work out of that. I need Burp Suite and things like that. So the way to do that, and I'm actually gonna, I would play around in this VM to figure it out. But once we have it, we will go ahead and power this off. We will vagrant destroy to get rid of that VM entirely. And what we're going to do is install some tools. And what I'm going to do, well, the way we're going to do that is we're going to come down here and we're going to right here. And we will do things like, I lost my notes. Let's see. We need to be able to add in a script. It's called a provisioning script. And so what that's going to look like is we'll call this config.vm.provision, provision, if I can spell. And then that is going to be, we'll call it, we're going to call this install GUI. And so it's going to be a type of shell. We're going to run a shell script. We're going to say the path to that shell is scripts/install.sh, and the args are going to be like that. And that should give us what we need here. Now we're going to need, if we try to do Vagrant up right now, it's going to complain because it can't find my, Vagrant vid scripts install.sh. So we need to make dir scripts, and we need to now vim scripts install.sh. I'm going to make it a bash script with bin bash, and some real simple stuff here. So I'm going to grab, actually have this over on the side here. We'll grab this, put this in. So basically I'm going to add the Ansible repository, and then I'm going to install the Ubuntu Mate desktop and Ansible. And you can do as much as you want configuration wise in scripts like this. I'm going to actually use Ansible for the majority of the configuration, which is why I'm installing Ansible. But I do want to install the desktop right here, right now. So now that we have that, we can now Vagrant up, and we're going to start building. And let's see, I will probably, well, I'm going to talk for just another second. So we see it building, it's powered on, just got its rename, looking good. I guess we can check real quick also while we're here. Oops. We can check and see if the disk size got done correctly this time. My typo fixed it. And we did. Here we got 200. So we're using 1.47, but we've got 200 gigabytes. So that's what we wanted. It's working. It's right there. Now, so it says it's waiting for the machine to boot. Looks like the machine is now booted. I'm guessing if we click on it, we'll see it at the login window. Oops, let's move over here. And it is. Don't know why that opens on the other screen every time. But now you can see it's actually running. We can actually see it's running. Let's see. So here's where we were stopping before at this mapped drive. And now we're going to run the provisioner install GUI, which is what I named here. It's going to run this sh script, which is, so it's going to copy over SCP, the script I wrote, into /temp, and it's going to run it. And you can see now we start opening up and running this apt install command. And so that's what's happening. This is going to take a few minutes to run. So I'm going to pause the video here while this runs, and I'll check back in when it's done. All right, the installation's done. Our VM is still sitting in the same state. We can log back in, and you can see right here, it says system restart required at the bottom. We're going to go do a shutdown -r now. So we just installed all the GUI tools, the desktop, etc. But that stuff needs to happen on reboot. One thing we can do over here is we can do a Vagrant plugin install, and it's called Vagrant reload, I believe. Let's see if that works. And then we can come up here in our config, and we can say config.vm.provision, and now we just do reload like that. And so now the next time I build this, it will actually do a reboot for me after it builds. Back over here, the reboot is up and we're in. We have a login screen. There's actually 3 users in this image. I think I don't like this base box. I think I'm going to switch back to generic Ubuntu 2204 because I don't know what this Ubuntu user is. I don't like the fact that it automatically maps a shared directory, although you can configure that in Vagrant as well to do other mappings. But let's see. Anyway, we can log in here. We can go to Vagrant, and we have basically we have a VM desktop here. There's a couple things I'm going to want to fix. The network manager is not quite plugged in right now. It's using NetPlan from the server, but I want to use network manager. I can fix that pretty easily. The tools, the VirtualBox tools are not installed. You can see I didn't resize there. That's just because I don't have that plugin installed. If I install that plugin and do a Vagrant up, destroy Vagrant up, when it rebuilds, the tools will work and it will work just fine there. Yeah. I'm going to personally choose to do most of my customizations after that using Ansible. Ipsec put out his video a few days ago showing Ansible, and that kind of got me going down the hole on that one. There's a lot of cool configuration options you can do in Ansible. It's just more powerful, but you could do it all through bash scripts through Vagrant if you really wanted to. So that's always an option. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Go out there and build some VMs with Vagrant, automate your setup, make it easy so that when you need a new VM for whatever reason, you can just create a new one like that. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.